I'm this is Lokesh from AML B section, holding a pin number of LE10. My topic is about a GitHub plus a Twitter integrated assembly code debugger in CSA. So here is my introduction. Here is a deep practical guide of an assembly code debugger that integrates with a GitHub. GitHub it has repos, webhooks, actions, and Twitter or X for notification discussions or social debugging. Below, I'll cover architecture, components, integrations with consent API and implementation notes, security and rate limit considerations, UX ideas, and ready to use examples, webhook handler, GitHub actions, and a tweet example. So I'll also point to reference docs so you can straight away. Uh, so you can use straight away. So high level idea and use cases. A GitHub plus a Twitter integrated assembly codes debugger is a system that automates building, disabling, instrumenting, and debugging assembly produced from code in GitHub, and surfaces results, annotations, crash traces, benchmarks, differs, step through, gives summaries. Back to GitHub, PR comments, status check, artifacts, and optionally to Twitter X. Status codes, threads, or DMs to maintainers. Use cases. Auto annot no, auto annotate a PR with a disassembly and suspicious instruction ranges. Run deterministic assembly difference on pushes. Detect introduced risky instructions. Replay cache traces and public and inactive snippet or GIF. Notify maintainers on Twitter X for high impact resonance or assembly patterns. So the key building blocks: GitHub, webhooks, actions, triggering, assembly toolchain plus debugger, GDB. The examples for the debugger are GDB, Radar 2, Capstone, Unicorn, and analysis engine, static plus dynamic, storage and UI, artifact hosting, web UI, a Twitter X bot for announcements. GitHub webhook and actions are core integrated points. This is a GitHub main profile, the GitHub main profile, and this is the X main profile. Then comes here system architecture, components and data flow. What is the system architecture in GitHub and overthrow X? Event sources. GitHub push like it pushes PR open or update. Workflows runs. Use webhook for GitHub actions to trigger analysis. Orchestration. So we have heard this orchestration word. Orchestration means it's a development. So GitHub actions or an external CI runs in response to webhook or action. Actions can run containerized jobs, produce artificial and status, build and disassembly stage. So build and disassembly stage, it means build artifacts that are binary builds. It binaries using the report toolhack and programming assembly via object dump. So statistic analysis. So pairs assembly, capstone, keystone, tag patterns. In tag patterns, there are some examples like Sycelas, indirect jams, suspicious sequence. So dynamic analysis or emulation. USB GDB non-interactive batch mode. QEMU user emulator. QEMU is a user emulator that used for dynamic analysis, or a unicorn engine to emulate and step instructions. Capture registers, memory radar to R2 pipe can also run automations, symbolic and mapping. Mapping instruction address to source lines. So, and results artifacts. Store annotated assembly, step tracers, flame graphs, short GIFs or videos of single step runs, and crash replace as artifacts. Upload via actions, artifact API, and stretch in S3. Feedback channels. There are some feedback channels for this GitHub. The feedback channels are post status, check to GitHub, next pass our file annotations, review community, and optionally send short Twitter X posts. Example like PR hashtag 123. PR is completely depends on public relations. So in this GitHub, the public relations are accepted or else conveyed by X, as well known as Twitter. Here the mostly used examples are given that PR hashtag 123 announced in an analytics way. Foo S colon 42 dash analysis via the X API. API format, in the API format, the X posts these stats analysis, implementation ideas, and choices. Next, triggers and GitHub integration. How we have to integrate this GitHub and the format from GitHub. Webhook wrote this external servers create a repo webhook to post like a push or a pull request or workflow job events to the your server endpoint. Validate via webhook secret. Use webhook payload to reschedule a runner job. Documents like a GitHub webhooks and event. GitHub Actions recommended a path quick. Uh, Add a workflow that triggers on pull request or push to run the build plus analysis. Containerized job. Produce artifacts and PR users using the GitHub Actions API. Action provide built-in features and built-in secrets and artifact upload endpoints. Debugging engines and libraries. What are the search engines, debugging engines, and what are the libraries present in GitHub? Next, DGB batch mode. Okay, sorry, GDB batch mode. Run GDB batch X run X BT full. This line creates a virtual environment in GitHub, etc. Works for native debugging and core dumps. Many automation wrappers exist. Next, a Radar 2 or R2 pipe. These are scriptable, good for static or dynamic analysis and extracting basic blocks. Unicorn engine, fast instruction emulation, user land, good for microtransfers and fuzzing like step in without full OS. Capstone, disassembly library for passing and tagging instructions. Select engines depending on required fidelity. This GDB batch mode debugging unicorn for isolated emulation. Mapping analysis back to GitHub. Annotations in PRs used to check API to create detailed annotations for specific files and lines. Inline comments attached to files. Action runners can call the REST API to create check runs and annotations. Twitter or X integrations. The authorization, like register a developer app on X and obtain OAuth 2 or barrier credentials per X docs. Use OAuth 2 app only barrier for posting with server credentials or OAuth 2 user context if posting as individual. X API documents explain endpoints and outfalls. Use cases. What are the use cases from data X integrations? Like non-sensitive notifications. Like example like automated find PR hashtag 123 content and unrelated memory right in fo.s that details, and we can provide the link of it. Avoid tweeting code that codes leak secrets or personal info. In some codes, we have that personal info in some links. Yeah, so then we have to lock it, and we have to should not showcase the personal secrets like rate limits and policy. Respect X API rate limits and posting rule retries are black ops. Next, UX and developer environments. Here are annotations, inline annotations pointing to source lines from explaining box why instructions is a risky suggested fix. Use GitHub check run annotations for machine friendly display interactive web UI. Here we have some interactive web UIs and short visual artifacts and local dev modes. Local dev modes contains all maintenance to run the analytics CLI things that mirrors converts. So the reference I had get these information from GitHub hoops on working that and GitHub actions and actions API, some X actions and compiler explorers. Thank you, ma'am.